there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO, 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, here with Adam Littlefield, a technician at the Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, go ahead and leave an open mic using the WDBO app. Also, go ahead and check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, the man himself, Adam Littlefield.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, for listening to another exciting episode of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. Again, my name is Adam Littlefield. I'm one of the technicians there at our store over in Longwood. So if you ever need to reach us, our free tech support hotline is one of the biggest things that we have. You know, if you're one of our customers, you've probably been in store before. You hear that phone ringing all the time. That's that free tech support hotline, and the number is 407-478-8200. You know, that rings in store, puts you in contact with any of our technicians. You know, there's no middleman of that. It just goes straight to us. So if you have any questions, definitely give us a call. So we had an exciting week, didn't we, last week, Greg, with CES?
A lot of fun with CES, and it was great going over some of the smaller tech that came out of CES. But there's some big tech that we didn't get a chance to go over. I'm excited that we saw this on the list today, and it kind of ties into where our buddy Dave is right now in his life. Yeah,
you know, Dave, he's still out on his road trip in South America right now. I don't know where exactly he is, but I hope he's having fun out there.
I'm sure he is.
I'm sure he is,
that
too.
That man's an RV fanatic. I'm sure he's having a great time out there.
He loves traveling, and, you know, it's nice to see him out there and just being able to do it. Hearing his stories in the past, how he's been wanting to do this kind of trip, so it's good to see he's doing it. But you know, CES actually showed, I think, what might be almost the best RV that's out there right now.
It's like the dream of a David Levitt.
Yeah.
Right there at the very tippy top of the mountain.
You know, this RV I'm talking about, it was shown at CES. We missed it from last week. It was the Evotrex PG5. They're calling it the world's first power generating RV trailer. So this is it's a towable RV trailer that's got this hybrid power system in it. It's got a massive battery in it. It's got roof solar panels and even an onboard gas powered generator that I think they stated could deliver over 270 kilowatt hours of power.
Wow!
To give an idea, the battery on that RV only is 43 kilowatt hours.
So it's definitely moving some power through it.
I was gonna say that's 5 times the battery charge off of its cycle. So. No, this thing I would say is really good for just about anybody. I know that they were talking about the different charging options that this RV has so far as vehicle to vehicle. If you have an EV, so if you're using an EV to tow it, you've got basically your generator right there on the hitch the whole time. It's also going to be supporting vehicle to home load, so you can do like a backup generator off of this RV, and even vehicle to load, so powering just like basic tools, gear, campsite stuff, anything like that.
I've seen that out of a lot of the like the F-150 Lightning has that capability where you can plug it in, but again, that's a much smaller battery setup than what we're seeing on this, right?
Right, and you know, I remember talking to Dave too about the RV that he has, how it's got, you know, some good sized batteries in it to run, but I don't think it's anything that's comparable to this one. This is you know, another computer on wheels, and the company that's making this Evotrex, you know, with the vehicle to vehicle charging I was mentioning, they're calling that range boost. So I guess their intentions is for owners of electric vehicles to one day own these, and they can go camping, charge their car while they're out in the middle of nowhere. You don't have to worry about charging at that point.
It's kind of similar to what we've seen as far as what Dodge is planning to offer for their upcoming Ram electrified truck, I believe, where they're going to have this kind of like more of like a gas generator built in as opposed to a true engine.
Right.
And it's going to be able to recharge that for you in case you don't have access to like a fast charger or anything like that.
Right. And you know, it's a nice thing that you bring up the hybridness of it, where it's a gas generator, not a gas motor, and then the battery. You know, I think the last vehicle I saw that in was the Chevy Volt. It was a battery-driven vehicle that had a gas-powered generator that if it needed a little bit extra torque or power, it could kick on the generator. But this RV, it's not only, you know, a tow as far as, you know, just moving it. The RV will also come with an integrated electric motor. So, say you're having difficulty towing it, it can provide power assist. And I was even reading a couple things that at one point the company's wanting to plan on relocating the RV remotely. So have some sort of self-navigation technology in it that you can open up the app on your phone and, tell it, hey, I want you to move to the other side of the campgrounds in the morning.
I was going to say that'd be helpful if you're like moving campsites while you're at a place, maybe long-term or something like that. Maybe don't have that towing vehicle as handy as you'd like it to be. Yeah, that could be definitely very beneficial for that kind of.
Yeah, and, I'm excited to see where that goes because myself, I'm just becoming more and more into this idea of autonomy, just telling stuff to do it, I'm in the kind of mindset that one day we won't have to drive cars anymore. We won't have to do a lot of just risky maneuvers with a lot of these different vehicles. And I think this RV is kind of in the right direction. It's a towable RV, but it kind of has the features that it'll be able to relocate itself. The nice thing with this too is I was seeing that the amenities in it can do up to 2 queen beds. It has a full electric kitchen, a dry bathroom, massive amounts of headroom. I think they were talking about people that were up to 6'6" were able to stand in this RV with no issues.
That's good to hear.
That is good to hear. I know RV headroom is one of those glorious things, like almost on the plane with the leg room.
Right.
So
I'm 6'3", and there's been a lot of RVs that I've been like, I don't know if I could stay in here for very much longer.
Yeah, it's a vacation where you're going to have a chiropractor afterwards.
Right.
But this RV, it's also coming with they're saying they're going to have a smart energy management system in it. That's for the HVAC and appliances to be able to run off-grid, so off of that battery pack, the solar panels, and the generator for days. So the nice thing with all of this is the RV itself will also be monitored and controlled via a tablet that comes with it. I believe there's actually a spot in the RV where the tablet will sit, and you can take it anytime, and you can do a lot of things with that. Control lighting, the climate, that power management system I just talked about. You can monitor your water tanks, your tire pressure, the exterior cameras. The RV, I believe, is also going to be supporting remote access, so you can view those cameras, eventually being able to move it. So this is way different from your normal RV that you just kind of hitch up to.
This isn't that old pop-up that your dad had in the back that you maybe took out for those once in a while camping or fishing trips, right?
Right. And I think there's going to be a lot of applications to this, but I think this is also going to be the major first step where we see a transition of having electricity and technology even out, in the wilderness, in camping.
Yeah, no, we talked a lot about the Starlink system and how Dave has that on his current RV setup. I'm sure that this would be the ideal setup to make sure to have that set up for, like you mentioned, where you've got that access everywhere.
Yeah, and that's something that at least myself has always thought about was I would love to go camping, but I'm such a technology reliant person. I don't know how well I could honestly handle that.
It can be intimidating also, just not so much just being away from the technology, but just being maybe unsure of your surroundings or uncertain of even your own abilities in that kind of situation. You're a long ways away from somebody being able to help you in a lot of those situations if something were to happen. So I think this adds that additional step of accessibility for people that have those kind of insecurities about their work out there.
Right, yeah, and with you bringing up Starlink and everything, it really it pops into my head, why hasn't anything been talked about yet with Evo Treks and Starlink? This almost sounds like the perfect RV to have a partnership with for that mobile internet, kind of like what Dave's using right now on his.
I can only imagine that's going to be probably a lot of their next steps. You mentioned a lot of the kind of autonomous portions of what they're looking for in this. They're going to have some kind of connection to be able to make sure that that's done correctly, I'd imagine. Right. So I would see that. I could definitely see that being a future partnership. Elon Musk might be turning his eye to this one here coming up soon.
Yeah, either that or, the company comes out with just a little adapter plate that you just 2 bolts could put onto the top of it and mount a Starlink panel there. So I know the pricings for this, they were starting at about $120,000 up to about $160,000 for their premium model. It wasn't really discussed what was the difference between those two price points, so I'm not too sure what warrants the extra $40,000. I would guess amenities. Comfort features.
Yeah, you mentioned the up to 2 queen beds, and I imagine that it depends on what kind of furnishings it has in that full electric kitchen and those kinds of things as well. I wonder, how does that pricing match up with just a general RV?
That's a good question. Honestly, I haven't shopped for my own RV. I'm not even at that point yet for myself, but I know the pricing for them. It can be up there depending on what size RV you're looking at. But, as far as like the pricing goes on this, the one thing I'm kind of thinking about is we've got all of these features that are talked about, the management system, the remote access features that this kind of RV is going to have. But after kind of seeing how a lot of companies have gone, I wonder if they're going to do a monthly charge on something to be able to keep up those kinds of amenities, be able to remotely access the cameras, any systems really on the RV. And that's kind of where we've been heading with a lot of stuff now, is with subscriptions as well. I believe just a couple days ago, Spotify, one of the largest music streaming platforms, they announced that they're bumping their subscription plans $2 to $4 just across the board. So we're starting to see more subscriptions creep up in our lives, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's kind of infiltrating all of what we do. And
right.
I was listening to a report earlier today where they were talking about how it's gone from being a kind of add-on subscription services were so much seen as just kind of like this extra thing that you were getting,
right,
to where it's now kind of replaced and become a necessity. Like we talked about the transition from cutting the cord, to going from cable subscriptions to now to these individual subscriptions.
Right.
And it's the money that has started to kind of creep up to become kind of similar as we continue to see a lot of this in a lot of these different kind of formats. Regardless, outside of the Tesla is not necessarily a cable corporation, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the services that's being used. Spotify is a live service; it's always running on their computers wherever that is. So they have to pay money for that. There's always headroom that these companies have to make, and subscriptions have, in the last couple of years, been, I think, the biggest thing that a lot of companies have started to realize. Hey, there's a lot of missed potential here, and I know years ago, actually, I think it was Tupperware was facing almost bankruptcy because they had made such a good product that nobody ever had to replace it. And they kind of hit the end of that income stream. Everybody had these really good products that they were never replacing. Nobody needed to get it anymore.
Yeah, you talk a little bit about that planned obsolescence when it comes to some of those products. And I think we might be getting into that in more and more in the car world. It's definitely been one of those things where cars have become more affordable to replace than maybe even to repair at times.
Right.
One of the things that I was seeing a lot about when it came to this subscription program that Elon Musk is now pushing towards with Tesla and the autonomous driving function for some of those vehicles was that, how long do you expect to have your Tesla? If you were to buy that program outright, you'd have to pay it off over 7 years to equal the cost of what the subscription was.
Right.
So that implied to me that people weren't expecting to have their Tesla for more than 7 years. So I think that's a wild thing to advance to. But, I mean, it's just kind of been the marching orders that we've gone to at this point.
It has been. And, it's interesting to bring up Tesla with it as well, because I know one of the performance packages, or the performance package that Elon Musk had gotten passed a couple weeks ago, probably a couple months ago now, actually, was to get a certain amount of full self-driving subscribers, not purchases, but actual people paying the $100 a month to be subscribed to that service. So even large executives, high executives are starting to push, subscriptions. And it really is kind of coming down to questioning, in my own head, what are we really going to own anymore? Yep. What are we going to own of our devices? Because, example, for my car, you had mentioned the full self-driving. There's also premium connectivity, which lets me have Spotify in the car, satellite radio, bunch of different features. I had to pay about $10 a month for that as well.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So, there are small things that you do pay for a month. You can own the car without any of it, still have access to your FM radio and everything. But, that pushed into the subscription area now. What are we going to have taken away that we have to pay monthly for?
I think it was a couple of years ago, Audi gotten a lot of pushback because they were going to push subscribers for their heated seats.
Yes, I saw that.
And now we're to this. So I guess we'll continue evaluating this as it continues to develop. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO. If you've got any comments about this new subscriber-driven economy, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with Adam Littlefield, technician from the Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, we'd love to hear them. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. And now back to Adam. But before we get back into our subscription talk, I did want to bring up, I looked up the cost of a high-end fifth wheel from our friends over at Camping World. And for a high-end fifth wheel, the 2026 Keystone Raptor, $154,000. So, and again, that's a high-end fifth wheel.
Yeah.
This said it was a towable, so I'm not exactly sure on the size comparison. But just to give you an idea, that's the highest end on that, and we're talking about this with all of that technology built in and all the battery charging and power. Just an idea of where we're at.
So it sounds to me actually that the pricing lines up pretty on par for what it might be. Right. So that's good to know for for that RV from Evo Trex. So, we were talking about subscription creep earlier. A lot of us now are getting stuck in this where we almost always have to be paying for something. And a large one I can mention right now that I know a lot of listeners are going to say, that's exactly what I deal with. Microsoft Office 365. That's one of the biggest subscriptions that now more than ever we're seeing because Microsoft took away the ability to purchase it outright. And, a lot of game companies are actually starting to move towards that kind of model now as well with their game licenses, where you maybe would pay $60 for the game up front and you're given access to a digital license. That's your permission to play the game, use their software. But what they don't tell you is they can just take that away from you at any time. You're basically renting to be able to play a game, use software. Subscriptions are almost the same thing now. We're paying monthly for, Spotify, maybe that free trial you started a couple weeks ago, you forgot to cancel. I know a lot of revenue from companies comes from that kind of thing. There's also price increases where, like we're seeing with Spotify, they're only raising their plans maybe $2 to $4 a month. That sounds like nothing, but if you've got 10, 11 different subscriptions all going up $2, $3, that's a lot of money all of a sudden you're losing now every month.
And like you mentioned, that's big time revenue for someone like Spotify. $2 to $4 doesn't sound like a lot on the individual consumer, but as a marketplace, that's millions of dollars for them in new revenue.
Right. And that's the bubble we're starting to get into now with a lot of tech is subscriptions. And the big one I can put out here right now, because it's been a main thing, has been AI. A lot of AI bots now, you've got Grok, ChatGPT, Claude. There's so many of them out there, I can't even remember any more of the names. I know that they have free versions that you can go in and mess around a little bit with them. But they have paid versions that you pay per month to be able to access the super advanced versions of it. I know Grok 4 Heavy, I think, is one of the major ones that's behind a big paywall. But there is substantial increase in that ability. And I think kind of coming up in the future here with the come up of AI and how important it's becoming, I think we're going to really start seeing the divide of using the free version of an AI versus who's paying for it, And
I think a lot of that also might be rising, especially when it comes to things like our open AIs and programs like that, is the more strict restrictions that are on data sharing.
Right.
You're seeing a lot of more companies having to go to more of these paid-for models because of all of the things that have happened over the last decade concerning platforms like Facebook and Meta and things like that have led to these data restrictions. All of your data isn't as freely accessible as it was in the past when you sign up for some of these programs.
Right.
It's still accessible. Don't get me wrong. They still have a lot of your information that you probably don't want them to have.
Yeah.
But it's not nearly the wild, wild west it was when Facebook really got in a lot of trouble for all that.
Right. And I know Facebook, when they really got into trouble, they were sniffing around a lot. And it's because their terms of service were very relaxed. And the problem, at least on that, was terms of service is a lot of users, like myself even, sometimes don't really read the terms of service.
The great South Park episode.
Yeah, you go through and install a program, you don't read the 30 pages, and suddenly now you just signed away your life.
And your left kidney.
Exactly. So, we're still seeing just more and more subscriptions come out of the woodwork, and I'm kind of worried of where that's going to go in the future.
It'll be something to continue to monitor, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about that here on Tech Talk. You've been listening here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with Adam Littlefield from the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, go ahead and leave an open mic using that WDBO app. You can also check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, Adam Littlefield.
Thank you, Greg. And again, thank you everybody who's been listening to this episode of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. If you missed any of the beginning of the show, we talked, a lot about this exciting RV that we saw out of CES and a little bit about subscription creep that's been coming up in our lives. I'm sure everybody's been seeing it. I would really stress, go to refreshcomputers.net, click that podcast link, and you can listen to this whole show in its entirety. It's about, give or take, 40 minutes, no ads in it. We have it in podcast form, so you can listen to all of that exciting stuff about that new RV. So getting into the new nitty-gritty stuff with Apple and Google, Apple has finally announced their partnership with Google for Gemini.
It feels like we've been talking about this for a while for it to now just only have its official announcement, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of credible rumors, floating around the last couple of months that this is what Apple's been gearing up, getting ready to do, and they finally announced it. They have announced that they are going to be partnering with Google to power Siri with Gemini. So they talked a little bit about what can be expected out of that. Siri is going to be able to handle more complex contextual queries. So, you can ask Siri something and then ask it another question in relation to that first question, and Siri will be more capable of actually understanding. You're trying to have a conversation with her, not just asking her to check your calendar for you.
That's really so much how a lot of these AI models have developed, right? They kind of want you to be able to have that conversational type of inquiry with them.
Right. And I think that's, the shift that we're seeing in AI that a lot of people have predicted is we're going to see the humanization of it. We're going to start seeing AI where it becomes so human to the point that it may be difficult to really separate what is AI and what isn't. I've been seeing a lot of image generation lately out of a lot of different AI models, and it's getting scarily accurate to real life.
I'm questioning myself anymore anytime I watch some of these videos. I watch for things and I'm like, there's no way that's real.
Yeah. Are you AI, Greg?
I mean, that is none of your business. First off, Adam, that's a
good point.
Very personal question, but it's weird.
It is.
You know what I mean? I'm all for the continued progression of some of these kinds of things, but when it starts making you question reality is when it starts kind of getting pretty uncomfortable, at least on this side of the mic.
You question reality, and we mentioned this a little bit ago, but you kind of question your privacy.
Right.
Google has been this large conglomerate for as long as I know that they have really preached privacy. They want, their customers to be private. What happens on iPhone stays on iPhone. That's always kind of been the going thing with Apple these past couple of years. And now with kind of getting this Gemini AI into Siri, I'm wondering how they're going to handle that. Apple's stressing that everything's going to be running on device or through their private cloud compute services that they're going to have for this Siri. But again, little things that can be done on your phone, that's fine. That does stay contained within your device, but sending out whatever information to this private cloud for it to compute and send back to your phone, where is that information going to? It could be just another one of Google's massive data centers that they have right now, and Apple, I don't know if they would be upfront about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know that there's been some talk that this could be kind of like a modified version of Gemini on there, so it's not going to be exactly Google's kind of proprietary version of Gemini. Right. It's almost like an altered Siri-ish version of Gemini, right? So it's going to be, I'm sure that there's some control that Apple necessitated that they maintain for integrating.
Right. And, I think the major thing that comes out of this, too, with what you're mentioning really proves this isn't a lockdown in partnership for Apple. This is a very open-ended thing that Apple has basically just reached out to Google saying, hey, we need Siri to be better. We need this to get better. Come in and help us. There's no exclusivity out of it either. So, that's kind of exciting. That leaves the door open in the future for Apple to maybe expand and find maybe they'll make some super combination of AI. They may do Gemini first, reach out to XAI and get, Grok mixed in with it and just kind of make Siri the best she can be. But, this plays into Apple's progress again, where they're kind of taking a shortcut now into the AI race, where we've watched, Google, ChatGPT with OpenAI, and Grok push and really drive a lot of AI development now. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see where this goes because, like you said, Greg, we've been talking about this for a while. Apple News, whether or not they announce it, it's there's always something going on in Apple's little walled garden. But the one thing I'm really wondering is how Apple is going to handle it, again, like we just talked about in the previous segment, with a subscription.
Right. No, great point.
You put Siri into these new phones, and she's going to be so much more powerful. There's a cost that comes with it.
And there's been so much that people have become reliant on with Siri. And I think that's a part of kind of where we're developing, like we mentioned before, where we've come from what were the wild, wild west of this development where everything was free because it had access to all of your data and all of your information. That was the currency. That was what they needed out of you. And now you're coming into this where there is more restrictions on that. There are more restrictions on how that's shared. But Siri's always been free. Siri has always been there for you to be able to access and ask questions to. If they put a restriction on something that you've become so reliant on and now put it behind a subscription paywall, that's really where things are. Does that cause a riot in the tech industry, or does it just become one of those things that everybody says, yeah, it used to be free.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
One of those it is what it is situations. Right. And I think that's what we're going to come up and see really soon, actually, because I know Apple has an event later this year in June. I'm suspecting that's when they're really going to first show this new powerful Siri during that keynote, and I'm hoping it's going to be as good as they're kind of gumming it up to be right now. Because Apple did not provide any specifics of what, Siri will really get into, but again, the rumors kind of keep flowing out of Apple, and they've been very accurate. We could be seeing deeper personal awareness with Siri, being able to understand, connect info across apps, knowing, pull this info out of this app here, import it into this one, that kind of understanding what you're trying to do, but also your on-screen awareness. And that's something that's been very controversial in AI in the past couple months. I know we had talked about that Windows feature, Windows Recall, how that was, AI monitoring your screen, be able to recall. I wonder what Siri might be able to do with that.
Yeah, you wonder how many restrictions they'll want to put on something like that. Or, like you mentioned when we talked about the recall with Microsoft, where it just kind of was on. It might have been just for a higher end level of what that was, but it was just on. It didn't request. It might have been very low inside of those agreements, but it was somewhere in there, and it was just on, taking screenshots of everything you did. It helped the AI model to learn what things you did. Yeah. But it also is a vulnerability that a lot of people weren't aware of.
Yeah, and that's a very good word, I think, to use there, is vulnerability, because with AI, it is an artificial intelligence assistant. And the problem with that is when you have an assistant, anybody out there that has a personal assistant for your job right now, the major thing your assistant knows is how you work, how you do your stuff, how you schedule your stuff. So now we're going to have these AI assistants learning us deeply as people to know how we want to live our day. And that's going to be something I think that's really going to be a little off-putting to some people, that they've got now this program, this AI, learning them. But others, I can think of 100 different ways that it might actually help my life.
Sure. No, it definitely opens it up to more everyday people, so to say, to have this kind of someone helping you with your scheduling and developing these kinds of long-term plans for what your career path might be, or how you want things to work out in a new project. But I think it also, like I mentioned again, it's a vulnerability, because there's a lot of information there that we saw just a couple days ago. Verizon doesn't want to admit it yet, but there's a chance that might have been a major hack that happened across the country. all of this data is now just available out there, as opposed to it being with your bookkeeper sitting in front of your office.
Right.
So it's a scary time to be in, but also a very exciting time.
And that goes right into the concern with AI is data leaks. I just recently saw there was a massive login data link with Cash App actually, and millions and millions of dollars was going out the windows for people because a lot of people use Cash App like it's their own personal bank, which it's kind of engineered to be like that. So it's just when we have all of this important data that can be accessed by people, there's going to be somebody out there that wants to get into it. And that's kind of where I'm still concerned with the shift with Apple right now, where they're teaming up with Google for Gemini. Is Google is a very, very data hungry company. They want to know so much about myself, about you, Greg, about everybody out there in the world, because they want to be the best company for everybody. And I think that might be a concern as we creep up into figuring out more about Siri, more about Google's play in all of it, because I know that they're providing the model of Gemini, but what are they getting out of it besides their name on the partnership, And Apple, them toting their privacy is their number one focus. We don't have any idea what privacy stuff that's going to have to be updated, what is going to have to be agreed to when this new update for Siri comes out. And I'm sure it's going to be the first thing that when iOS updates, it's going to be a big, long text screen of all the terms and conditions you must agree to. Otherwise, you get basic Siri.
Right. And maybe, hey, for a lot of people, maybe that's just all you need. So we talk a lot about some of the refurbished computers that you do have at the Refresh Computer Superstore, and you don't necessarily need the biggest, the latest, the best.
No.
You need something that's going to be able to do what you need it to do.
Right.
And maybe basic Siri is that for you. So.
And, for myself personally, I use Grok, I would say, almost every day, asking random questions. Maybe there's something at our store that I just cannot wrap my head around. Google's not figuring it out. Grok is that last hope of, telling me to try something other than restart it, right? So, and that's the free version. That's the free version of it, and that's more than enough for myself. So, it's great that you bring that up, because nobody needs the highest end computer to check your emails, to do a little online surfing. And now that I've said it out loud, I'm starting to kind of think of it. You get basic Siri. If they do a subscription for Siri, I could see almost them splitting it like that, where you do, go through, subscribe to it, and that just upgrades the Siri in your phone. It's just like it just restarts. You just restart your phone and that's it.
Right.
So there's a lot of layers I think that Apple's going to be able to do with this. But the one thing I still am worried about is just what they're going to do with privacy. Gemini is one of those big models. I believe, right now they've been training it on massive AI data centers. And with Apple doing this is going to kind of give Google, I guess, outsourcing to train their AI model more. Because if you think about it, there are tons of Apple devices out there right now. I believe there's the last count I found was there was over 2 billion Apple devices out there right now. And if you take all of that and you take this one AI model, spread it across those 2 billion phones, and then collect all of that data, see what the AI has been doing and how to make it better, that might be where Google's going with this. Maybe they're not collecting your personal information, but they want to see how the AI works and where it failed you.
As many operations as you can get it to run to find all those bugs and debug it and make it better for that next user. That's
right.
So much of what that kind of process really depends on. Yeah. We talk about a lot about it with Tesla and how we talked about how they're trying to maybe integrate into their own mapping system away from different things. It's so much of it just collecting all of that data and figuring out what it did wrong the first time and then passing that on to the next guy so that way they don't make that same mistake.
Right. And the Tesla stuff with say their navigation, for example, is a perfect example of when you have too many hands in the pot. Because just doing a bunch of research last night, I learned that while Google map data is used a bunch by Tesla, they also get information from, I think, 3 or 4 other different sources and just kind of shove it together.
Oh my.
And that, that creates a bunch of issues when you've got too many things working at once. It's like with antiviruses. If you've got more than one antivirus installed, I'm almost certain your computer is running as slow as molasses right now.
I think you're an antivirus. No, I think you're an antivirus.
Well, that antivirus is a virus.
So those are definitely some of those things that we're going to have to watch as they continue to try and get some of those kinks out of some of those new operating systems. Go ahead and let us know. Have you noticed any issues with utilizing any of these AI systems? We'd love to hear about it. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with technician Adam Littlefield from the Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. You can also check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to Adam.
Well, thank you, Greg. And again, thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. If you missed any of what we've been talking about, we talked a lot about Apple in the last segment. We talked about a really exciting EV RV in that first segment. So if you missed any of that, go to refreshcomputers.net, click that little podcast link in the top corner, and you can listen to this whole show in its entirety without commercials. Just to kind of get you up to date with what's coming out, what's going on right now. And while you're on the website as well, check out our inventory. Our whole website lists everything in our inventory. So if you see a laptop on there for $250 and you want that laptop, you can order it online. You can select in-store pickup. You can give us a call if you have any questions about us. Tell us the model number, and you can even order it and have it shipped to you. We ship to the entire continental United States. So, I would really suggest checking out that website, checking out our inventory. We've got tons of laptops on sale right now, tons of desktops, and we still have gaming computers as well.
I know that Dave really stacked up on those before the holidays, and obviously they were a hot commodity, it seems like.
And they still are being a hot commodity too. They're one of the things that, we're seeing just still go out the door because where we are right now with AI, with the RAM shortages and everything, the prices on our gaming computers it's really hard to beat. And that's hard to say in a market that's so filled with gaming computers now. But I'm happy to say at least that we have some really good prices on them. And again, you can check that out at refreshcomputers.net. Listen to the podcast while you look through our store. Listen to us talk about, all these subscriptions that are now coming up in our lives. And I did pull it up while we were on break as well, did a little bit about Apple just so I can get an idea of, what really goes into their subscriptions. And, just taking a quick tally of what they offer for subscriptions, you're looking at, $51 a month. But that gives you their Apple Music, a bunch of different creator programs. But that kind of leans into it again where you're not buying your programs, you're paying for you're renting it. There we go. That's the word I've been looking for this whole time.
Renting access.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we've got a lot of stuff coming up in the future that I think we're going to see explode. We're going to have a big explosion here soon with AI. We've talked about all of the hardware that's been going into AI, the shortages that have been coming from it, but it's building. It's something that's getting bigger and bigger every day, every second. When we're asleep, AI models don't have to go to sleep.
They're not sleeping.
Exactly.
And they are using up your energy.
They're using up your energy, and they're using up your water to cool them as well.
Right.
And, I remember actually in a previous show as well, Dave and I talking about AIs and AI data centers and how we should put them in space. And we actually had a very nice customer of ours reach out to us and tell us about the difficulties of why that doesn't work. And with my understanding, I didn't really think of it like this, but, the vacuum of space, you don't have anywhere for the heat to go to.
Oh, good point.
So it just stays wherever it is and actually creates more a problem.
Just radiates in its one spot.
Exactly. So, that was a really big lesson for me to learn out of that. I never really thought about that, but it's good, to hear from our viewers. And again, if you are listening, if you've got something you want to add, you can use the WDBO app to leave an open mic. You can also give us a call at our store number, 407-478-8200, or you can give us an email as well. We have an open, available email for you to send to. That is Longwood at refreshcomputers.net. If you have any questions, that's just a really good way to contact us as well. Or just stop on by in our store. Honestly, you can speak to me, one of my other great technicians I have there. I've got Brian, John, Eric, Dylan. We've got so many amazing people there. So even if you just want to come by, ask a couple questions about what you heard on the radio, definitely, I would say come by. You can ask for me.
And Dave when he's not in South America.
Exactly, when he's not in South America or wherever else his travels are going to take him to in the rest of the world. So... looks like we're coming up to the end of the show. So my name has been Adam Littlefield. I look forward to speaking to you all again next week so we can have another exciting talk of what's coming up next.